Hello and welcome to episode 150 of Just Keep Writing,
a podcast for writers
by writers
to keep you writing.
I'm Marshall.
I'm Nick.
I'm Brent.
I'm Gabe.
I'm Sameem.
And I'm Will.
Dude, guys, I'm super stoked. I can't believe we're recording episode 150. We've been doing this a long time. I wanted to gather, obviously, the voices. There's a lot of us here. I wanted to get as many people as possible for this episode. We're missing a couple, but yeah, just as many as we could for a light episode, just talking about where we're at, current writing goals, what's keeping us going, and honestly, what is going to keep us writing. And that's kind of the idea behind the questions that I have kind of lined up. The guys have no idea what I'm going to ask, which might make this kind of entertaining, at least for me. But before we do that, Nick, I'm going to throw it to you really quick, because I want you to I want to give a big shout out to the community, Discord and stuff like that. And any updates on newsletters or anything else community wise you want to talk about before we get going.
Yeah. Fun side note, currently not doing the newsletter right now. So we were taking a little break from that, mainly because I have too much on my plate right now and I have to cut some stuff off. But we, plan on picking that back up in a different format and style, and probably on a quarterly basis, more so than anything else in the future.
Good. So we got an update. And guys, so I have a series of questions here for us. And the main reason I wanted to do this too is this has been kind of a rough year, I would say, for my writing. But part of what has really helped me is this podcast and the community that we've built. So I'm going to go around and I might call on people randomly. We'll see how this goes. But I want you guys to describe your writing this year so far in one word. See what I did there? Anybody can jump in, or I can start calling on people. One of the two.
I say you call on people.
All right, Brent, you're first.
In one word.
Or two, it's fine. You can compound word it. It's fine. Yeah.
I can do one. Rapid. And the reason I say rapid is because a lot of projects have made their way to me, and a lot of projects are still making their way to me. And that's not a complaint, but it is very fast in terms of like, oh shit, like I actually have stuff due, and it's due rather quickly, and I have to literally put ass in chair. I know like a lot of writers say that, but like this year I feel like I've actually had to really learn the true definition of like sitting your ass in the seat and like writing. So yeah, rapid. That's my word.
Love it. And just like Brent did, when I call on you and you throw your word out, just say why. And it can be 2 words. Keep it loose. It's all good. Gabe, you want to go?
Yeah, that's easy. It's just inconsistent. Basically. This year, like I've had spurts of writing. I had a month that I wrote every single day, just a little. Now, literally last week, we made a deal with my writing group that I'm going to write at least a page a week, because life has been so full of so many projects. One very cool writing related project, which I can talk about later.
Okay.
But my plate is so full that just writing, at least the thing that I'm happy is that I'm still thinking about writing, which at some other point in my writing years, I just stopped thinking about it for 2 or 3 months, even 6 months. And that was super discouraging. I was in my writing group and I was just ashamed of that, that I wasn't even thinking about that. So at least I'm thinking about writing, and yeah, basically inconsistent.
It's fair. Sameem, What do you think?
When you said this, the first word that came to mind was harrowing.
Okay.
And then I was like, let me just double check the definition of that word. And it's the dictionary definition is extremely disturbing or distressing. And so that sounds about right. I think it's been like a daunting task that I've given myself. with like no incentive at the end of it.
Right.
And I've added more and more scope to the project, as if like, you know, the task of writing a novel to begin with wasn't hard enough. I was like, all right, well, it's got to have all these new components in it now that you're in the second draft, and then also think through the next 2 books that you want to write in this series. And I think that sort of like incapacitated me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, the other thing I was gonna say too is I like how vague people are being with their projects. I do have a specific what people are working on question for later, so I like the vagueness is working. So Nick, what's your word, man?
Chaotic. Shoot, I'm going chaos because that's how actually my life is going right now too. I think it's a pretty fitting word considering last summer, Marshall, we graduated with our MFAs.
Yeah.
And you know, I wrote 30,000 words right away, and then the turn of the year hit. My wife started school, and I haven't done a lot of writing. I've done a lot of brainstorming and side notes, but ironically, I wrote 2 chapters in July by accident. So that's always a positive. So it's starting to pick up again, and I was always like, you know, when I graduate, I'm not going to be that person that doesn't write for a year. Well, you know, 9 months, 1 year, it's close enough. So, but yeah, chaotic.
I like it. Will?
Prolific and profound.
Okay.
Those are my 2 words. I finished the play. I workshopped it with actors. Next month, which is August, I will meet with a dramatist and director. And then we do a 29-hour equity reading, which means we actually hire actors, like who are paid this time, not my friends. And we have producers come in. And so far, there's 2 theaters besides Broadway that we're actually looking at. One is actually in San Diego, and one is in Miami. So if it goes to San Diego, it would come out in the spring. And then Broadway would be in the fall. I'm 40,000 words into my novel. I am submitting 2 short stories next month to a couple different places. And I just putting the finishing touches on 5 10-minute short films that I'm writing and I'm going to direct.
Prolific indeed, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep I'm going to try to stay as positive as I can because I'm kind of like Nick a little bit. My school year was chaotic as hell and my writing was not happening. Creative in other ways, but yeah. So I'm going to kind of do what Will did, like slow momentum. Like it took me a while. Like I was always kind of thinking about stuff and tinkering with things, and knowing what I needed to do. And then I kind of pushed myself a little bit to, you know, go back to my work, start querying my novel and stuff like that. So recently I realized what happens when you have huge chunks of time and nothing to do, that you can actually get a lot of writing done. So I was in Colorado for like the last 3 weeks, like doing various things, and I had chunks of time. I'm like, so this is what it feels like not to get up to go to work and try to figure out how to write. Like I just got up in the morning and went and found a place to write. And so I got some momentum going. So I'm really stoked about that right now. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think we can say that you did get 2 full manuscript requests.
Yes, I did.
Which is huge.
Yeah, and that was really...
Don't steal his thunder.
No, but that was... so this is kind of leads into my next question. And maybe I'll start off since Will has a perfect segue in that. Because I want to keep the positivity going. I know we've had some kind of a chaotic time. Writing is always kind of chaotic. I'm going to keep using that word. I like that, Nick. But what is one thing that you're really proud of around your recent writing? It can be something very specific. It could be something maybe a section you wrote, or just anything you're really proud of. And I'll start, and then I'll go back to Will and back around the other way, because I kind of have you guys on my screen like that. But I'll start this time because I am really proud of the fact that I put myself out there. I had one agent ask for the full manuscript and another agent as well. And it's just like, that is just something that I'm really proud of, because that means I haven't given up yet. At age 45, I'm going to keep doing this thing, and I'm going to keep writing, and I'm stoked about that. I'm really hoping for some good feedback from those agents, more than anything, because I want to see what's next, if that makes sense. So thanks. Well, that was a perfect segue. What do you think? What are you most proud of right now?
My play.
Play?
My play it was really difficult to write. It'll be the most personal thing I probably will ever write. And I think just finishing it and then having the reading and inviting everyone who was around to come to it, everyone cried and laughed at the moments that I wanted them to. And it's just changed everything for me.
It's so freaking good. I don't know if everyone here in the call has read it, but it's just spectacularly good.
No, I haven't. So I'm ready.
Thanks, Gabe.
Oh my God. It's so good.
All right, Nick. Something you're proud of, man. Positivity.
Look, this is a hard one for me because I'm on my way to being proud of something. So, for insight here, I'm writing a character that I don't intersect with on a lot of levels. And I have a tendency when I write characters that I don't directly identify with to limit them and put them in a box and say, well, that's not my story to write. I'm not going to include this. And so I'm realizing that is like my hitch in all my writing with my characters. I am in the process of allowing myself the freedom to write my characters as they want to be written. And this is side characters and secondary characters. So I'm on the way to being proud of it, because I'm finally this is why I got 2 chapters done this month, is I had to work through that, and I was limiting myself in my creativity. And so once I realized I was in my own way, you got to work through some things. Like I said, I could journal it and storyboard it all day long, but when it came to the actual writing and pulling out those gripping emotions and stuff like that, that's where I boxed myself in.
Oh, it sounds like you can see it.
Yeah, it's a new found eyesight.
Yeah, I like it. Sameem, something you're proud of?
I started this thing that I did last year again at the start of this month to just write at least 100 words a day. And I hadn't been doing that because I was I'm on the second draft. It's way more organization and logistics than writing. But I was having a really hard time to your earlier point, Marshall, not having a big chunk of time to sit and think and process. And so I finally was okay, I developed this idea for a newer character that wasn't in the original draft. And I don't know their backstory. So I kind of assigned myself kind of a standalone novella, where I'm developing their backstory, and bits and pieces of it will make it into the novel. And it's been very slow going, but kind of proud of myself, kind of pushing through. And I think that's given me some life to actually figure out the broader plot issues that I'm having as well back in the main novel. So yeah, those two things together, figuring out the organization pieces, as of 2 hours ago, figured out and assigned myself all the subplots now that I want to go through and write. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Sweet. Gabe.
A few things. Mainly, this is the first time ever in my writing career that I'm not scared to write my novel, to work on my novel. I'm at 87 something % of the word count that I'm aiming for.
Nice.
Of the current draft. And I'm excited to rewrite it, to go and use the techniques we talked about with Refuse to be Done. So I'm excited to finish the draft and then go back doing the previous work and then rewrite the draft. Like, I'm super stoked about that. The thing that I want to work in the next few weeks is a short story that I finished. I think it was last year. Was it, Will? The Moonfall?
Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah,
End of last year.
Yeah, I want to touch that story up to submit it by next month for the submission window for Uncanny. So that's my current goal. And another thing, writing related, is that I'm now I'm partner of a publishing house here in Mexico, and yeah, and I'm going to be the director of the fiction division.
Dude, Gabe, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Obviously, it's more things on my plate. It's one of the things that has taken time and energy from me, but that gives me energy, but it just takes time. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. Obviously, you have to get that momentum going. There's so many things to work on, but yeah, I'm super excited. It's been, as I said, inconsistent, but now I have very defined goals, and I hope I can make the time to work on those things. So yeah.
Dude, that is freaking awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You heard it here first, everybody. So, because we just heard it right now too.
Yep. Only Will knew.
Damn it, Will.
Yeah, I've known for like a month.
Jesus.
How do you keep so many secrets, you?
Yeah, right?
I know secrets of all of you.
Oh, God. That's probably not wrong. Okay, Brent, what do you think? Something you're proud of, man.
Well, first off, congrats, Gabe. That's amazing. So I have like two things, I guess. So one of the things that I was kind of proud of was I got the edits back for my short that's going to be in I Want That Twink Obliterated. And after I went through the edits, it made the story like so much better. And there was a point when I was like rereading it after all the edits, and I was like, wait, this is actually good. Like, you're not bad at this. Like, so that was nice to have that that moment, because those moments are fleeting, because I'm sure in 2 months I'll hate everything I've ever written again. But that was one. The second one was actually there came a point in the because I'm still working on the novel, but there came a point in it recently, I'd say maybe a month ago, where I was writing this particular part of it, and I always talk about bleeding on the page. Well, I wrote this part of it, and it didn't hit me until after I wrote the part what I was actually writing about, and I made myself so sad. I had to call my best friend and his boyfriend. I was like, I'm coming over, guys. I need company right now. Like, and so that sounds bad, but actually I was happy with myself once I was away from it, because I was like, oh my God, I was actually able to really hit that amount of emotion within myself. So if I can do that to myself, then maybe I can do it to someone else too. So yeah. Sounds like a paradox, and they definitely gave me drinks and everything, but it was actually a proud moment. So
I love it. Okay, I have one more writing specific question, and the main reason I'm doing the writing stuff is I feel like, we have interviews and we're doing some of this other stuff sometimes, or talking about other works, but I wanted the listeners, especially new listeners or whatever, to kind of hear what we are personally working on and what we're working towards, because I know in our Discord, people are posting all the time about like what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. So I'm going to start, I'm going to go back. It's easier for me. I'm going to start back with Brent. Is that right? Because Will went first time. Yeah. So I'm going to start back with Brent. And this will be easy for you. What are your next writing goals? Whether there be a self-imposed timeline or an actual deadline that you have like looming?
So this is an easy one to answer, because I actually just met with my agent for Comic-Con this past weekend. Nice. So as we were meeting, one of the things we were talking about was, I was like, I'm close. I'm getting close to being done. And so she was like, okay, well, I'm going to give you to the end of next month to get it to me. And I'm like, open my mouth. All right, well, fine. Well, go. Let's go for it. So that's what I'm working towards now. That's the big looming one. But I also have something I can't really talk about due at the end of next month too. So
Okay.
that's coming up. And then there's at least one thing that's going to be due in the fall that I don't know exactly when in the fall it's going to be due, but it is going to be due in the fall. And I'm waiting on edits for the my Sword and Sorcery novelette. So
Nice.
things are happening. Yeah.
You got goals, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I want to hear about that thing you can't talk about if you haven't told me already. So.
I think I have, but maybe
you probably have.
Yeah.
All right, Gabe, goals.
It's, I mean, as I said, finish the work on the short story to have it submitted.
Yep.
Then I think, to be realistic, after all these years, I know my speed. I know what happens. I've tried so many times and said so many times, I'm going to do this by this time. And it was very ambitious. But being realistic, I would say just finish this draft by this year.
Yeah.
Because I have so many projects outside of writing and in writing that it's just being realistic. It would be that. So yeah, I don't want to put that much pressure on me, but at least fulfill from now on at least that page a week until I find that space. Because I usually write in big spurts of like I can work, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks that I write a shit ton of words and then nothing for 2 months.
Yeah.
So I'll just have to find that time to make that happen. But that's the goal, basically.
It's a good goal, man.
Yeah.
Sameem?
I think I have two. One, I guess, shorter term one is I also have a short story that I wrote last year and forgot about that I decided to fix up for the Uncanny submission window. So that I guess has to be done like by the beginning of September at the latest. And I kind of I feel better about it after like reading it. It needs a lot of work, but feeling kind of excited about it. And then the other one is similar to Gabe, is just like getting this novel done and getting it to a place where I feel like I can start sharing it with my like writing group partners to get feedback. So I can just get it out into the world quicker. And I also am like, I was laid off like 3 weeks ago in my day job. And so my other deadline is trying to finish as much of the draft as I can before I get another job. So it's a little bit of a perverse incentive to not get another job in there.
Oh man, that's rough. Well,
that's all right.
Take advantage of the time.
Exactly.
All right, Nick, what's your goals, man? You have no goals. You look.
I have no goals.
That's a lie.
Shut up, Will. Let me have this moment.
What goals have Will told you have? That's what I want to know.
That's true. So I've got 3 technically, but 2 of them lead up to each other. So I want to start querying and submitting by October, which means I have to have my novel done by September. And my current pace, I'm not going to hate it, so I got to step it up. But I'm also going to pull out a dark retelling of Cinderella that I've submitted before that Brent's read and Will. I need to polish up, and I'm gonna push that out to a couple different places with the submission windows opening up for a few different areas. So, but those are kind of like my short-term goals right now. Obviously, long-term goal is always going to be querying. If I'm querying by the end of the year, it's going to be a success for me. The goal is to start by October, but end of the year at the latest.
It's awesome, dude. Will, I know you've accomplished a lot. What is I know you're very good at setting goals. What's your next goal or a goal or 2?
I mean,
I can see your face. I already know you've got 15 goals that you could spout off right now, but.
Well, the one I'm doing right now is I'm writing a short story a week.
Shit.
And that's been really fun and challenging. So I'm finishing up these 2 short stories this month so I can submit them. My novel, I will have a whole draft done by September 30th. And then, I will then take a little time off because there's a novella I'm going to finish writing. And then I have a retreat that I'm really excited about called Ink and Magic, which is with Leslie Penelope, which I'm really excited to go to. So that way I can kind of work out what I need to work out on my novel and then feedback from my writing group. And then my goal is for my novel to really get it in shape. So in December, I can query, which I know everyone tells you not to because it's slow, but I'm still doing it. Because you know what? After talking to a couple agents, they were like, actually, no one's going to get back to you, but like it's going to be the first thing that is going to pop up in our query submission. So, that's the goal with that. And then I either start my Kickstarter for the short films in January, so I have to plan all that out, or there's someone of my friends that really wants to produce them.
Oh,
So
okay.
if he does this, then that's like a game changer. So
For sure.
that's my goals.
Well, keep us in the loop, man. I love those goals.
Thanks.
I am planning to query a few more agents before I leave off the grid in a few days for a much needed camping trip with my family. I usually spend that time listening to audiobooks and writing. So on that note, my other goal is just to kind of keep the momentum I picked up over the last couple of weeks and just keep working on stuff. Like I like you guys, I'm have my eye on those short story windows. I have a few stories that I think might be cool to kind of mess with and revise a bit while I'm gone. And then I want to try to, my biggest goal is to keep the momentum once school starts. And that's like literally 2 weeks from now. So that's my thing. I knew you were. I was like, what is everybody's faces doing? Will's talking about camping murder again. Yeah, I got it. We won't get murdered. We'll be back. I promise.
Okay.
Don't worry, man. I'll be fine. All right. So let's change it up a little bit. So I want to ask everybody, and you can take this any way you want. I want to know if there's an author or an artist or somebody that has recently inspired you to keep writing because they're doing this thing that you maybe consumed, something you read, something that you really, really enjoy, and or something they have coming up or something they're doing in the writing community that you're like, okay, I want to be part of that in some way. So I'm inspired by them. Will, you want to go first? Go.
You wait for more to call on you. Shut up,
No,
Nick.
it's fine. I can change up the order anytime I want. I'm a teacher. I can do this all day.
Exactly. Mine is Brent because I've been reading his novel, and it's Brent and Fonda Lee right now. It's Brent for all the reasons that it would be Fonda Lee because of world building and what you're doing, but it's Brent because what he's doing in his novel is so fucking cool and queer and fantasy, and there's just so many layers to it that I just really cannot wait for everyone to read it because it's gonna blow up. And so
that reminds me, I need to download that latest file you sent before I go to camp so I can read it while I'm out there.
Yeah. So I should probably send the most recent, I guess.
Send the most recent one before I go.
Yeah. No.
If you're willing to share, I read the first stuff, and I just
Of course, y'all like anyone in the writing crew can get it. Yeah,
I love it.
And then I would also say, everyone else. I think everyone else in our like my writing circles, you, Marshall, Nick, what I've read from like Billy and Gabe and RJ, but and Fonda Lee because I'm obsessed with the Greenbone saga.
She's an awesome person too.
I
Really
just
cool.
love those books. I'm like, it makes me want to write. It makes me, it really made me think of like my martial arts upbringing because both me and Fonda, I'm pretty sure we started around the same age of doing martial arts. So, yeah.
I love it. All right, Brent, what you got?
I was sitting here trying to think of like who recently has like just really like set a fire under my ass. Actually, I'm gonna say this from this past weekend. Jen Lyons, like just like getting to see her on panel and like the confidence and the research behind like every answer she gives. And there was this one particular part. So she has a book that recently came out that it's about dragons, and she kind of mentions how George Martin had that quote about dragons, like, oh, dragons can't be six limbed, there's no six limb, whatever bullshit. And so she definitely says in the conversation, like, yeah, insects have six legs and they're one of the most abundant biomasses on earth. Like, what are you talking about? And so it's like, yeah, fuck off, George. But so yeah, anyways, but she said it in such this way that was like very like just succinct and just after being around her, I was like, I want to go write, like I want to go create something. Like, you're just so cool. And like, yeah, so she's the most recent one I think of. And I obviously outside of that, Tochi Anyibuchi always just makes me feel like I just want to be smarter. Like, he's one of those people you're walking around, it's like, damn, he's just so cool and smart. I'm like trying to catch up to you. So yeah, like those two for sure. Like, I feel like recently have like just sparked neurons or whatever in my head to like want to keep writing.
I love it. Gabe, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, so I was gonna jokingly say that it was Will, but then I realized like no, but that's true.
It's the truth.
Like, for real, the thing that I would say is that how you've been writing, Will, lately, it just like flip the table over, like, fuck it, I'm gonna do this. Like, without any fear, just diving into the thing and doing the thing. And I think that's
Thanks.
That's what has stopped me all these years. Like, this November, it's going to be 9 years since I started writing. And I haven't finished. I mean, I have finished short stories and the first draft and whatever, but I've been afraid most of the time. And now seeing Will just really diving and producing his best work and improving on other works and just producing good writing just by writing it, just by not stopping to think so much about it, just diving into it and improving, sharing. So yeah, for real, it's Will. And also Fonda Lee again. Of course, I've mentioned her so many times. I'm on my 8th reread of Green Boat Saga. I just love it. I know at least now Will is with me on that boat. And
I feel like so far, Fonda Lee's winning.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's mainly because I listened to an episode that she was with Victoria Schwab, and she talked about how Greenbow Saga is her second story published, and how she didn't focus on her debut. Like, she realized that her debut shouldn't be the thing that her breakout story. Just write the thing, get published. And she talked about this thing that it's capitalism. People want the quick success, have this thing that comes out to be the thing. She's like, no, that statistically, that's not what happens.
Yeah.
But even though that's like the publishing business is sort of focused on that, it makes us think that's the way, but it's not the way. She's like, yeah, I published my debut and I wrote some parts of the Greenbone Saga during that, but then she worked in the Greenbone Saga. Now look where she is. Like, look the size of the Greenbone Saga. She was like, yeah, just get that first thing out. Don't expect that thing to be your magnum opus, because statistically it's not going to be.
Yeah.
So listen to her talking about that and like, yeah, fuck it. Just write the thing, get it out there, and then probably the next or the next or the next is going to be my masterpiece, quote unquote. I hope. So yeah, those two amazing writers.
Love it.
Thanks, Gabe.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
I paid on.
What?
I paid him to say that.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I Venmoed him some money. I was like, I just gave Brent a compliment. Bitch, I need one.
Gotta balance it out.
That's good shit. All right, Sameem, what you got, man?
I have like a quick opposite one real fast. I always thought of like the Expanse TV show as like something I drew from a lot, and something I'd potentially like use as a comp for my novel. But I never actually had read the books until like this past month, where I started reading the series, and I like them, but I'm having a hard time thinking about them as a comp now. And it's like it's less getting at what I'm trying to do, I realize.
Interesting.
And so it's been an interesting experience going through and reading it and figuring out like I don't want to do this, and understanding that. And actually, by contrast, some of the stuff that has like motivated me more to write the last month or so has been more like stuff that's a little bit more on like the litfic side of things. There's a book I read maybe like a month or two ago called The Place for Us, by Fatima Farheen Mirza, which is about like an Indian Muslim family in like Northern California, and like how like the first generation immigrant experience and stuff like that. And I was like, why is this speaking so much more to me right now than like the sci-fi I'm reading? Mm-hmm. And then I sort of put together something I was struggling with in my novel as I was reading that. It's the first time I'm writing something that isn't dealing with like family trauma and family dynamics. Most of my short stories, there is like a weird family dynamic that you're trying to figure out, or like family backstory that's like being revealed. And there was none of that in the novel so far. It's there, and like I imagined it in the character's backstory, but it's not part of the story. And I sort of have figured out I need to bring that stuff forward to really motivate me to write and make things interesting. Like that's an important thing for me to write about, especially as I'm writing about humans habitating the solar system, and like migration is such a key part of that, and how migration affects family dynamics is super critical to like why I want to write. And so it's weird that got left out in my first draft in so many ways. So yeah, and there's another book that similarly motivated me called 1,000 Times Before by Asha Tanki. And this one it's litfic, but it's got a little bit of a speculative element in terms of how like memories are passed down from woman to woman by generation. That one was also really interesting for me because it starts in what was British India in Karachi, and follows a family that migrates from present day Pakistan to India, and dealing with like issues of like religious identity, queer identity, migrating across oceans and whatnot. And so again, like way more or a lot of elements that I'm trying to work with that I wasn't finding when I was reading The Expanse. It's interesting.
Interesting. All right. I like that, Nick.
Yep. So I'm going to wheel on over here real quick.
Like how you wait till now to wheel somewhere.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He decides to take his now? R2-D2 ass and roll out.
Go ahead, buddy.
Look, I just want to show for effect, guys. Legendborn, Tracy Dion, get on this shit now. This right here is just amazing. I'm not going to even pitch the book because it's so good to me and I won't do it justice, but Tracy Dion does stuff that I wish I could do in the fantasy setting and stuff like that. And I've realized like, I'm really like, just her characters are just so good. The conversation that she has with societal pressures and societal issues and things like that, just the way she tackles racism and stuff like that is just, it's so unique in the way that she does it. And it's in a fantasy setting, which I love.
Awesome. I'll have to check it out, dude. Put it on my list before I go to camp so I can read some stuff. Have I gone yet? I didn't go. Am I the last one? Okay. Mine's kind of weird. Not really weird. I don't want to like, I don't know. I don't want Will to pat himself on the back too much, but I do appreciate Will's encouragement. Over the last few weeks, here and there, he always kind of annoyingly, he always kind of seems to know when I might need to bounce an idea off, or like, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do this thing. And he'll just like somehow text me. I'm like, what is the deal? Anyway, I don't overthink it. But on the same lines, I've been out of town, like I said, for a few weeks, and I spent some time with writing excuses. I spent some time with my alumni folks from Western, and some other people in my community. I actually, this kind of surprise, it's not really a surprise at all. Mary Robinette Kowal has really been kind of in my corner lately, and just kind of in a very encouraging way. Like, we were doing the recording stuff. It was in the evening. We were in Steamboat Springs, and she's like, "Hey, how's your writing going?" Like, she'll just ask me that, and I'm like, "Well, whatever. It's kind of hit or miss. I'm trying to write while I'm gone." She's like, "Well, do you want to do some sprints?" I'm like, "Okay." So then we started doing some sprints, and then I like, because of a conversation they had on the podcast and the conversation that I was having with her earlier, I just randomly wrote like the first couple chapters to the sequel to my novel I'm querying, just kind of for fun. But it just kind of fell into it because she was just like, "Dude, do you want to write something?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So like, her and also Fran Wild recently too. I follow her on Patreon and stuff as well. And we, as a cohort, did a write-in with her. And just these folks that I've kind of formed relationships with that are very encouraging is like, those are the people that keep me writing. Because I'm like, look, they're doing it. I can do this too. And they want me to do it. And I feel like that helps me more than anything. Sometimes that face-to-face time and that just sitting with writers and writing will just kind of keep that momentum kind of going for me. So that's my answer to that. All right. Now for the fun one. We have enough time for probably 2 more questions. So this one is similar, but I'm a geek. What have you watched recently? Movie, TV show, media, YouTube, I don't care what it is, that has either informed your writing or inspired your writing. Like, God, that's so badass, I got to go write right now. And I'm going to start with, we got to go back the other way. Nicholas.
Look, I got nothing on this one. I don't have anything recent that's really made me want to get out and write. I'm consuming for sure. I will say, starting this weekend, I will be doing a binge weekend for House of the Dragon season 2.
Nice.
So I'm hoping that, maybe I get something from there. But right now, like, I've got nothing that's like making me want to go write.
That's fair. Maybe House of the Dragon will do it for you. Sameem, what about you?
Honestly, I spent all weekend with a high fever binge watching reruns of Trailer Park Boys, so I feel like my head's like full of trash right now. But I did also squeeze in a few episodes of oh crap, the name is escaping my mind. It's the HBO animated series.
Scavenger's Reign, because that was going to be my answer.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So I'm only like 3 episodes in, and it's the exact opposite of Trailer Park Boys, where like I have to pay really close attention to know what's going on and like follow every detail. Like, honestly, I felt like I glanced at my phone a few times while watching it and then had to rewind and go back because there's a lot going on, even though it felt very simple in some ways. And so I love how like beautiful and abstract and weird it is all at the same time. And just very different from, I think, anything else I've seen before.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. All right, Gabe.
I'm thinking only of, I just finished watching Blue Eye Samurai. And the thing that actually got me, not that it got me, like gave me the itch to write, but it gave me the confidence, because it's really good. Like, it's I enjoyed it so much, but there were so like many small, medium, big sized things that I was like, I could write that better.
Oh,
Like I could see the seams. I mean that sounds a bit arrogant, but at the same time, I felt like that many times during the watch. Like, and it's funny that when I'm watching things with Aranza, my girlfriend, we talk all those things, and now she can see the writer behind the things. So we were just bouncing those things back. She's like, yeah, you definitely would be able to, at least those things that took us out of the story, we could do those better. So it gave me at least the confidence that, yeah, at least I can see, I know things, and maybe at some point I'll be able to execute in such a way that I can make a thing like that.
I love
Not
it.
per se like write a TV show, which I would love to at some
Love
point.
it too.
But it made me think, because it has many video game aspects,
Yeah.
which I enjoyed very much in that TV series. And it made me think of writing for video games. Like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I got out of it.
Nice. Brent?
Yeah.
So it was Scavenger's Reign for sure was mine. That one's been huge. I'm trying to think what else.
You can still talk about it. It doesn't matter.
Well, okay. So the reason I love it is just because one, like the soundtrack is just so much more subdued than you think the story would require. Like it's just very haunting and just it's dramatic, but yeah, and tragic all at once. Is just a very interesting thing. And what I also appreciate about that series is that it's maximal in terms of how it describes that world. Like you get all these very strange, weird, like creatures, but the characterization itself is very subdued and very like you have to pay attention because they're not telling you anything outright. Like, and also one of the things I found the most impressive, I have never, well, I'm going to say not never, but it's been a long time since. Usually the more I learn about a character, the more I sympathize with them, the more I'm like, okay, well, I can understand that. There's one character in this show, the more I learn, the more I hate. I hate him. It's like, I was like, how can you make me hate a character with every single detail you reveal about him?
I love it.
It's like, fuck this guy. Like with literally every... And there's a part of the series one, the characters literally says like, fuck him. And I'm like, yes, like literally fuck him. Like, and so I think it just speaks to the strength of the writing that you can do that. So yeah, that show definitely just made me think about like, because I feel like with the worlds that like I make, like there's a lot of like, it's kind of like maximal. Like and it's an issue I think because it's something I always have to fix in editing, but it's always a lot of idea vomit. And this show I feel like did idea vomit in a way that felt really cool and interesting and really profound, actually. There was one part, I think it was episode, I want to say 3 or 4, where there was this character had this interaction with like this one alien and this one creature that was part of the ecosystem. And they didn't say a single word to each other, but they were definitely communicating. And it was it was beautiful. And I was just like, I didn't know you could do that. Yes. The little Men in Black alien. That's what he reminded me of. But yeah, so that's definitely my pick.
Awesome. All right, Will, you're next.
I mean, I don't think there's anything that I've watched that makes me want to write.
What have you enjoyed recently? That's really the crux of the question.
Okay, so there's 3 things then, but I've read them. My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, which was so good. I'm obsessed with it. But I actually listened to it, which is not usually my thing. I usually have to read stuff, but I listened to this one and I was on the edge of my seat. I just reread Bitter Root, which is a comic book series that takes place in during the Harlem Renaissance. It's a group of a family, a African-American family fighting monsters. It's amazing. It's my favorite comic of all time so far. And Something is Killing the Children. I am so into that series that it really makes me look at the comic that me and RJ are
That's the
writing.
comic you told me to. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm just obsessed with it. There's a lot of things I love, but there's also a lot of things that I would be like, oh, I would do this way different. And I love James Tynion. He's a nice guy. But I was like, I could totally make this way fucking cooler. So yeah.
All right, I guess I'm last. Really the only thing I've watched recently, and it's not going to be a very big surprise that I enjoyed it, and it makes me want to write crazy stuff that I like. Was Acolyte. I really enjoyed the show. I finally caught up while I was gone, and I tend to write things, especially when it comes to action scenes, that are sometimes a little over the top, a little bit. I don't know. Over the top is probably the best way to describe it. But like when I saw some of those fight scenes towards those last couple episodes, I was just like, oh. And then like, I don't know, there was just something about the series of reveals and fights and the resolution on that show. And I'm not going to spoil anything. The resolution on that show was really well done. I mean, like really kind of closed up everything for the most part, and I really felt satisfied at the end of it. So that made me kind of think about, at the same time I was kind of reworking the ending of my novel, and it kind of made me think, I'm like, oh, I can kind of come back to this thing, I can kind of come back to this thing and make sure that I close things up. So yeah, anyway, I really enjoyed the show regardless of what my friends are saying in the chat here. So I'm just kidding. Calling you out, dude.
I was making a joke.
I know. I'm messing with you.
Bad joke.
All right. All right, guys. We kind of only have time for one more round. So I'm going to kind of I'm going to mash up two things. Two of my last couple questions. We kind of covered of what projects we're working on. So that's good. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to say two things. One, what do you enjoy most about doing this podcast, and what is going to keep you writing going past episode 150? Because we got to keep going. Unless we're planning on stopping, we got to keep going. So what's going to keep us going? I'm going to circle back. Can I start with Will? At the top of my screen.
Tell me the question again.
It's two questions. Really is, what do you enjoy about this podcast and what makes you want to keep doing it past 150? But also on top of that, what's going to keep you writing past episode 150?
Okay. So why do I enjoy doing the podcast? I think it's probably one of the main motivators that has kept me writing, and where I feel like I have a sense of community, and also a little bit of pressure in a good way. Like, okay, I do this podcast called Just Keep Writing. I better get on it and get some work out. And as far as why do I want to do it after like 150? What keeps me wanting to do it is I don't even feel like.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, really, it's what's going to keep you writing going forward
after 150. Well, I'm also going to say for the podcast of why I want to keep doing it is because I don't feel like we've done enough. Like there's so many other things we could do, and there's people I want to interview and talk craft with and learn. But what's going to keep me writing is, this whole year has been so far transformative, and I am just dialed in to my art, and it is just everything that I've wanted to happen is going to happen. And it has been a very, very long time since I've ever felt this way. And I mean, when I say a long time, I mean like 20 years that I felt this energized and positive about where life is going to go.
Honestly, man, I can see it on your face. It's awesome to see you and hear you say that, because I can feel it from your text, but seeing your face and how excited you are. It's amazing. I'm stoked for you.
Thanks.
Brent.
So I guess if I had to think about what I love about the podcast, I like the because there's a quote. So it's always like, the great men plant trees they know they'll never be able to stand under or whatever, right? So what I love about the podcast is, in relation to that quote, is like how many trees we don't realize we're planting. Because like when I was at LavenderCon, and it's happened at other places too where I've appeared, there's been people who've come up to me and be like, "Oh yeah, I love the podcast," or "Oh, this is about the podcast," and I'm like, thanks. Like, I love seeing it, but like I had zero clue like it was even, reaching those people. So I think what I love is like the unknown of just knowing like how many trees we might be planting out there. I like that. As for what is going to keep me writing outside of contracts and things that are legally binding, I think. No, honestly, I don't know. For me, it's like writing is my center. Creating something is my center. That's where I always like. No matter how bad things are, like when all I had furniture wise was an air mattress for a whole year, like I was still writing, like, or no matter how good things are, like even when I was like bouncing around Europe having a great time, I was still writing. It's always that constant center that exists in my life, so I don't think it would ever go away.
Love it. Gabe?
The main thing that I love about the podcast, I mean, honestly, apart from spending time with you guys, I love it so much. But I've learned so much, so freaking much, and I think this is related to what Brent said. So I guess if I've learned so much, because that's the main thing that I love about these conversations. I go for my second dinner, and I'm just thinking about all the things we talked about, and often that gets me writing. And I love that so much. So I guess if it's working for me, I hope it's working for other people, for the listeners. So I think that's amazing. I just echo everything Brent said about that part. And what keeps me writing, I think it's the same thing that I mentioned when I started in the podcast, is that I just love to share it more. Like, I'm always thinking of stories and the speculative aspect of it. I love that part. But honestly, like deep down, I just love sharing the writing, my own reading, my friends' writing, all around writing, just reading it, sharing it. That's the thing that keeps me writing. Like, obviously there's that pressure that Will mentioned, the pressure of the self-imposed deadlines or the deadlines that Will imposes to everyone. But apart from that pressure in a good way, it's just, like evoking feelings in people and seeing that, like seeing the value, I guess, in the things that I like to share, in the things that I would like to say, and seeing that having an impact on other people. I think that is the thing that is at the core of what keeps me writing.
It's awesome, Gabe. Sameem, back to you.
First part of the question was,
why do you keep coming back when we invite you to this podcast? No, why do you like doing the podcast, and what keeps you writing?
Why do you keep inviting me back? No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if any of you guys are youngest siblings or have like older cousins or whatever around, but I was the youngest in the family, and so whenever I got invited to, or my older siblings were forced to bring me along to things with their friends, like I'd be like, "Oh, you guys are so cool! Get to hear about like what they're doing," and that's like a lot like what this is like for me. Even if some of you guys are younger than me, I love hearing people talk about exciting things, what they're excited about, what gives them energy, what keeps them creating, like their passions, what their process is like. Like I could go to a craftsman studio and just sit and watch them. I went to I'd never been to a cobbler before, but I had a friend who was getting their pair of boots repaired, and I just sat there and watched the dude work, and I was just so fascinated. And with like the care and attention and skill that he was working with. And so similarly, like I could probably just sit and watch you guys write too, not just like talk about your writing. And so I think that's like the biggest thing. And I learn a ton through that process about myself as well. And then what's going to keep me writing past this point is partly like I don't have a choice. My brain's not going to like let me let up on this. It probably should be like, hey, there's way more sensible things you should be doing with your time, but I've already made the choice not to do those things. And so, yeah, I think I've like set aspirations for myself, and I've learned how to build towards them, and I want to see it through, and I'm excited for it.
Oh, that's awesome. Nicholas.
Nikki.
Oh, hello.
Hello, buddy.
Hello. Man, you guys gave such good answers. So I'll start with the podcast portion. I think for me, like, this is like doing like taking little mini classes with each other. And, it's kind of putting our writing group up front and center in the public eye, but at the same time, like every week that we sit down and record, like I'm always learning something either about myself or about someone else, and being able to objectively look at my own writing now and just grow. I think that's the biggest thing the podcast has given to me is growth, and I'm hoping that through our podcast that other people are growing as well as individuals and writers too. And that's what keeps me wanting to come back each week, is the hope that someone out there is learning something from us and being able to grow from it. What keeps me writing, yeah, that one, like kind of like what Sameem said, along the lines that I always have that. Brent said it too, right? Something that's always there, but it's like the one thing that no one can take away from me. It's the one thing even my health can't take away from me. I always have it. That's something that's mine and things like that. But I think, at the end of the day, like I want to write characters that people can see themselves in and grow from. One of my main things is most of my characters have some form of PTSD that they're struggling with. And that's kind of like my lens of like, this is what I go through. This is what I've seen others grow through and stuff like that. And I think that's something that I feel like I can represent, in my writing and reach out to others, inspire others that way as well.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate all of your answers. Of course, we have to end it on, what keeps us writing. But I want to go back to something that Brent said, and it's a quote, and I may not have it verbatim, but it's one of my favorite quotes from Kevin Smith, which is literally the reason I started podcasting. He said, man, just sit down with your friends and put a mic in front of you and talk to your friends. And for me, I've had a podcast in my life for over 15 years now, I think. It's been a really long time. I've been running a podcast or working for a podcast as well. And like, I love sitting down with my friends and talking, whether it be about geeky stuff, which is why I had to have the geeky question in there, but, or about writing and kind of what Will said earlier too, when we sit around and we talk about writing, it makes me want to write. And when I tell people I have a writing podcast, it's like their next question is, what do you write? And I'm like, well, you know what I mean? Like I write a bunch of stuff, but it's like, you can't read any of it right now. You know what I'm saying? And so, so for me, the podcast means a lot. The community around it is awesome. And I like the blending of all the communities we bring to it. So that's a big deal. But as far as like what keeps me writing, I think is the hope a little bit of like, maybe one day I can come back with that answer and be like, yeah, I wrote this and this and this, and you can buy it here or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like that to me is part of it. But the biggest part of it is what you guys been saying. It's really the stories. It's kind of like I love stories. I love telling stories. I love writing stories. I love consuming stories. So the writing is a must, and I have to keep doing it. Whether anything comes from it is irrelevant at this point. I just have to keep doing it. And I have to keep talking about it with you guys. So I think that's my answer. Anybody have anything else to add before we jump out of here?
Yes.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
I would just like to shout out to you two guys, to Nick and Marshall, for founding the podcast. 150 episodes. That's incredible. That it's so great. I mean, and having been there, like not there in the founding itself, but seeing the process of you guys, first meeting you guys, then listening to all the episodes, seeing all the progress, the changes, people going in, and all that it's grown. It's just amazing to watch. So yeah, congratulations to you too.
Thanks,
you
man.
did this.
I'm glad to have you here as well. You were there at the beginning of the conversations, I remember.
Yeah.
Right? On the boat?
Yep.
Just pretending we were podcasting on the boat?
Yep.
Oh, thanks, man. All right, guys. Well, thank you. Episode 150 is in the books, but more to come. And this has been Just Keep Writing, a podcast for writers by writers to keep you writing. You can find us at justkeepwriting.org. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Feel free to reach out to any of us on our social medias, and please jump in our Just Keep Writing Discord channel. Links to all of that is in the show notes. Lastly, please support our show by going to patreon.com/justkeepwriting. We offer daily writing prompts, early access to podcast episodes, and much more. Thanks for listening, and just keep writing.